Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Geek Remix podcast. My name is Stacy.
And I'm Mari.
So normally we don't talk about Trump stuff because there's just too much of it and it's too ridiculous and whatever. But I did want to start off with like one story just because it's like specifically related to video games. So I thought it might be kind of interesting to talk about it, and we don't actually have to talk about him all that much. Um, so basically, after the one of the latest mass shootings in the U.S., Trump said that he wanted to meet with video game companies and have like some sort of summit to talk about like video game violence and the effect that it has on young people.
So
Um,
I don't know if you were keyed into the video game sphere back in 10 years ago.
I wrote a whole paper on video game violence, so
Ah,
I
sick.
wasn't keyed into it at the time, but yeah, like I feel like I'm pretty aware of like what happened with that.
So with the Columbine shooters, and then going on 10 years past that, there was this thing where they don't do it anymore because I think they realized that a lot of people who play video games were also people who watch the news now because they grew up and they're like, no, that's not real.
Yeah.
And so they since have stopped doing the it's video games faults, and then they started going, oh, it's mental illness. But now I think Trump, being the old man that he is like, oh yeah, I remember everyone just said it was video games fault, so I think we'll do that.
Well, so the thing that a lot of people point to is, of course, that there is actually no research that links that has like a causal link between video games and like creating violent tendencies in people. In fact, most modern research seems to suggest that like some violent people may seek out video games as like an outlet,
That's
but
always how I felt, where it was like, you know how people are like, killing animals doesn't make you somebody who is more likely to be a serial killer. A serial killer is just gonna kill animals because they
yeah,
want to kill
yeah.
things.
It's like a which comes first type thing, like that being a violent person may make you seek out like media that kind of like lets you enact that fantasy, but the media itself doesn't cause you to be that way. um so there's that. There's also the fact that like people play violent video games all over the world and like nowhere else in the world has as much of a problem with like violent shootings as the US does. Not nowhere else, but you know what I'm saying, like that like people play these games in other countries that don't have nearly as much of a problem with mass shootings as the US. So I find it's obviously, I feel like anybody who's like even remotely keyed into the industry would find it pretty hard to believe that these two things, that like games cause people to like be
There's also
violent.
been several long-term studies that I remember. I wrote a paper when I was like a freshman in college, when I was like, yeah, this isn't it. But also, I think that some people, I'm predicting a counterpoint where they're going to say, well, what about like all the women saying sexism in games is bad and blah, blah, blah. I feel like, you know, killing someone is a pretty defined line. And then things like racism and sexism is like a really blurry line for a lot of people. Does that make
Mm.
sense? Like, you know that killing is bad. Like, you're not going to do that. But when it comes to like sexism and racism, I think a lot of people have a lot more of a blurry line when it comes to that.
Well, it goes back to kind of like, so
But of
I,
course, everyone has different
yeah,
opinions.
I mean, I think it comes down to like, does it like what you said, how it's kind of like a blurry line. It's like if people can already kind of see these things happening in their day-to-day life and then it's reinforced maybe, as opposed to like we don't like people don't usually like run around like seeing like murders happening all the time and then
Yeah.
be like, oh yeah, like I'm gonna go murder people. Like that's not what most people do. Whereas like if somebody is like sexist or racist or whatever, um, and they see that kind of like playing out in games, then it might kind of like reinforce their worldview. I don't
Yeah,
know.
because like
It's
I feel like killing someone, everyone's like, okay, that's definitely a bad thing. Like even serial killers, they know.
they
They don't
know.
feel guilty, but they're like, I know that I probably shouldn't be doing this.
Well,
Like,
otherwise they wouldn't take steps to hide their behavior.
exactly.
They clearly know they're not supposed to do it.
Yeah.
You know?
They know.
Otherwise none of them would hide what they were doing.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So I
Yeah.
just feel like, it's a complicated subject. Personally, like, if I ever have something fall out of my vagina, I'll be like, hey, I want to review the games you play. Because I don't
Mhm.
want my kid, if they're, like, below 12. Nah, 12, I don't know.
Well, it also I feel like
Just...
it depends on the individual. I feel like also like if your kid like because some kids like they're pretty mature. That's why it's up to like the individual parent to be like, oh, maybe like my kid can't handle this yet, or like yeah, like they seem to have a pretty good handle on like how to act like a nice human being. So yeah, sure, they should be able to do what they want.
Yeah, but
You
I
know?
also like think that some people are like, well, I went hunting with my dad, and well, I was like, yeah, you went hunting with your dad. Like he was able to explain to you, like this is hunting, this is why we do it. Don't shoot
Yeah.
people. Like
Yeah, that it's like, oh, we're like hunting this for I don't know, like because we're gonna eat it later, as opposed to like, oh, we're just gonna like slaughter animals for fun.
exactly. So it's a complicated subject, but it's the same thing as saying like, don't let kids into rated R movies. And it's not because it's like, oh, sex and violence is bad. It's like you need to have somebody there to help explain to a child what is real and what is not real and what's acceptable and not acceptable. Like,
Yeah.
I remember my ex, like, his dad, like, caught him, like, sneaking porn. And his dad didn't, like, yell at him or anything. He just said, hey, like, listen, the stuff you see in this is not
Hmm.
real sex. So
Yeah.
don't, like, expect that from your partners and
You know,
blah, blah, blah.
and I'm so glad that you brought up like the porn angle of this, because like that is actually one area where there's been a lot of research that like when kids are exposed to that at a very young age and they don't have someone there who can kind of like explain like yeah, like this isn't like this is a fantasy, like in the real world, like this is how stuff works, blah blah blah. Like when you don't have like proper sex education and people just learn about sex through porn, it can kind of like reinforce unhealthy ideas.
Well,
It would
there's
be
like
like,
guys who think that women just don't grow armpit hair because their only experience with women's bodies is through pornography.
yeah,
So, I think that like in terms of video games and violence, it doesn't cause it, but at the same time, like just like any other like TV show or movie or book, like screen your shit, like having
yeah,
the ESRB saying violence on the back, like, oh, okay, I'm gonna look at the back, oh, it has like prostitutes in it, like you can't play this, child.
yeah,
Wait until you're 15 and I explain to you the intricacies of prostitution, okay? Like,
yeah. But apparent, just to touch back to the original story, though, video game companies are apparently unaware that anything is supposed to be happening. So I don't know if it'll actually like take place. But I think most people in like the video game industry are kind of just like, I mean, this is like an argument that has been around basically since like, what was it, the Mortal Kombat games in the 90s when they had like actual bloody deaths and stuff. That's when like parents first started to get really upset about like, oh my God, like what are our kids playing? And it's like now you look at those games and you're like, okay, like who would ever play that and think, oh yeah, a kid's gonna play that and think, yeah, I can rip someone's spinal cord out of their body. And
I
like,
would say it's kind of like wrestling, where, when I was a kid, my sister did a wrestling move onto my face. And, when you're a kid, it just didn't really translate that this would cause pain. Does
well,
that make
yeah,
sense?
because wrestlers are trained to like
Make it look
to
real.
make it look real, but without hurting each other.
Yeah, so nobody was around to explain, okay, the people on TV, they're pretending. So
Yeah.
don't shove your elbow into your sister's eyeball. Are you
Yeah.
kidding me?
Yeah. No, I mean it's really similar to that. It's like it's the same thing when like people always point to video games, but it's like there's plenty of other there's like, if kids see things on the news, like, I don't know. I think it's like and honestly, I think it's kind of like creating a scapegoat where it's like, oh,
Oh,
like
yeah, for sure.
it's like you'll blame games, but you won't actually address like any of the root issues of the problem that maybe could, like they were talking about putting like a some sort of tax on games to like pay for counseling in schools.
What?
Yeah. That was
I
like
just
I don't know if that's actually going to happen, but that's like they're floating around ideas like that, and it's just like, oh, come on, really? You know?
like, how about you have an actual it just all seems like fake just movements, because remember when Trump said that they should arm all the teachers with guns?
Yeah.
And I was just like, you're so stupid. And then he did it like in a room full of people who were victims of the attack. And he goes, how many of you would agree with that? 2 people raised their hand. And he says, how many people would not like that? And like way more people raised their hands. And a bunch of people just sitting there like, you're so stupid.
Yeah.
And it was just like, do you live in the real world where
Yeah.
you think that all teachers should have guns? Because like, that's just putting more guns. You don't know.
Well,
Like,
also,
teachers are
and
really
like,
cool, but like, a ton of them are pedophiles. I guarantee you. So I don't want to give them guns too. Okay.
and also like it's like, okay, so you have all these schools in the US that can like barely afford to keep the lights on or like keep paper and regular supplies, and you're now going to expect them to pay for guns and training for all the teachers? You know? Like,
Oh
what?
yeah, you don't have enough tools or anything. But here's a $500 gun and $1,000 worth of gun lessons. Like,
But
what?
it's like if these schools can't even afford to like give kids like a good education, then why on earth is like the priority to like arm teachers?
And why would you like?
All
Do you
and
know that
all
these are like children who are coming to school with guns? They're not thinking rationally where they think, oh, the teacher's gonna shoot me, so I better not do it. They're planning on dying anyway. Like, they all, not all, but like a lot of it ends with the person killing themselves. So why would a deterrent of like, oh, well, the teachers will shoot me? And they're like, yeah, that's part of the plan.
Well, also, and I mean, like, I saw a lot of like actual teachers talking about this on Twitter, and like one of the points that they all raised was like, okay, so now you expect me to shoot one of my own students?
Like,
Like,
you can't, you're
well,
expecting a teacher to become a killer.
it's like, can you imagine, you know, eh, like I feel like there's like a whole nother level of training that goes into like not just like knowing how to use a weapon, but also like preparing to like have to maybe step into a situation like a dangerous situation. Like cops and like people in the military, like they train specifically for situations like that where like something dangerous happens and you have to like insert yourself into the situation. That's like a whole nother level from literally just like learning how to like use a weapon. Like just because somebody knows how to use a weapon and like is a good shot or whatever, that doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to, that all of these teachers would be prepared to like step up and take a life of their own students who they have been tasked with like
Protecting
educate
and
protecting and educating. Like that's a lot to ask, you know
not to mention, like, if you give someone a tool that makes killing really easy, it kind of like takes the threshold of like, I forget what country it is, Sweden or some shit. One of the where like every single male in the country is a part of the army, and they're
mm-hmm.
all given. Let me just look it up so people aren't like, you're so stupid. I don't even know what to type, but they all have guns, and the rate at which there was marital like killings was
Marital
really
violence.
high because they would get mad and be like, I'm gonna go grab my gun and shoot you.
Yeah.
And so if it's just right there and you're like really heated in the moment, you know,
Well, it's kind of like how in countries where a lot of civilians have guns, the rate of death by suicide, like of suicide by gun, is also much higher because, like, when someone's in a desperate moment, they may just think, like, oh, like, I have a gun right here, like, as opposed to, like, oh, like, I don't have any, like, weapons readily available. Like, maybe I should figure out, maybe I should talk to somebody or like I don't know, figure something else out.
it kind of reminds me of the Onion article that they keep publishing every time there's a school shooting or just a shooting. And it's
Yeah.
like, no way to prevent this as only country where this regularly
Yeah,
happens.
yeah, yeah. I've seen that one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy because in Australia it happened. They're like, no more guns. And guess what?
Yeah, and
Way
I mean,
better.
I'm not one of those people that's like let's get rid of all the guns because I also know that you know I feel,
We're not ocean locked, so
well, and I feel like there's a lot of like compromises to be made, but I also feel like there's a lot of like really like there's a lot of things that like even gun owners would support, like,
I think that
you know.
just there hasn't it's the fact that like they won't make any compromises whatsoever. That's the issue.
Who do you mean by they?
Them. No,
Yeah,
I mean like the NRA and stuff.
yeah. I
Because
so
they're basically trying to sell guns and make money. And that's just capitalism, good
Yeah,
or
I mean,
bad,
so it's like
whatever.
I lump in like politicians and the NRA as like separate from the people who actually own guns because I feel like a lot of the people that actually own weapons and like are just like normal people who are like, yeah, like sometimes I go hunting. Like that's like a normal use of a weapon, and like you see so many of those people saying like, hey, like I'm a gun owner and I support like comprehensive background checks, or like I support no longer selling assault rifles, or like whatever it is, like like things that you could do that are not anywhere near the realm of like taking away all the guns, like something that even like a gun owner could get behind and say like, yeah, like that seems like a good like compromise, like a step that you could take, like not giving people who have domestic violence charges, not giving them weapons, like stuff like that. But politicians and the NRA are not willing to accept like anything, even like
That's because the
any.
NRA has lobbyists, and honestly, legally, they are bribing a bunch of politicians.
Yeah. So anyways, I don't want to spend too much more time talking about that because it's depressing as fuck. But if you have anything else to add, feel free. Otherwise, I was gonna move on.
So, is it Detroit Become Human now, or
Oh, I was gonna go to the Twitch one.
Twitch? No, wait, hold on. You start talking about it, I'll put it on screen.
Okay, so Twitch had put out kind of confusing, and they're still honestly confusing, like rules on like apparel for streamers, like what they should wear during streams, and like Twitch has kind of gone back and forth with like, oh, well, it's like we obviously don't want people being like naked. And we want to make some sort of rules, but it's also kind of confusing. Like, how do we make a rule that like applies to every situation? Um, because for example, like somebody, if they're doing like a workout stream, they might be wearing workout clothes, which are, for some people obviously like very smaller than like what you would wear like maybe on a video game stream.
Mm-hmm.
Or like somebody might be doing a stream like from the beach, in which case they might be wearing a bathing suit, like somebody might have their shirt off like on the beach, or like be wearing a bikini or whatever, and like that's appropriate attire for that place. But like it's I mean, I certainly don't envy their situation because Twitch is trying to make these rules that can like basically right now they've kind of said, we're just going to take a look at like the situation and the camera angles and the filters and emojis and see if it's okay. Which, like, okay.
It's kind of confusing because their rules used to just be you got to wear a shirt on stream, and
Yeah.
but that was a lot easier when it was basically someone sitting in a chair.
Yeah, but now I feel like that they have, because there's lots of
They've
people that
gone beyond video games, so now people are doing shows and going to the beach, blah blah blah.
yeah, and like somebody might dress up like what if someone's dressed up in a cosplay, like
Yeah, it's not their fault that the game studio designed it like that.
I know.
It's
See,
so crazy and unfair because you can be showing footage of the game with like a close up of someone's butthole,
exactly.
and then like, well, that on Twitch, like you can't have nudity in the games, but they can have the skimpy
But you
outfits.
can have somebody in a skimpy outfit.
And but then if a woman dresses up as a character in the game, suddenly that's bad. And to me personally, I think that's so unfair to the community as a whole, where we have these female characters who are beloved and praised for, yes, their characters and personality, but also their beautiful bodies.
Yeah.
And then when women or men who are fans of that game or property dress up as that, they're being like slut shamed, when it's like, but you like the character, but how come she's not allowed to dress as it? Because I feel as if it's okay so long as this female character that was designed by a man to make money, it's cool. But as soon as an actual real woman is like, I'm dressed for it too, do you want to support my stream? Like, suddenly that's horrible because, and they're like, well, they're profiting off of it. And I was like, how is it any different than the person who designed the character? Yeah. Or the company who's making money off of the character? It's not any different.
And the thing is like, if you're going to have people doing like workout streams or streams from the beach, like if somebody can stream from the beach in a bikini, like what? So then they can't stream from their own home in a bikini. Not like I'm saying I really like am like dying to wear a bikini on a stream, but like I feel like it's so hard to make a blanket rule that applies to all situations, and it's very hard to say like, oh well, this situation is okay, but this situation is not. So I forget what platform it was, but I heard them talking about it on Waypoint, the Waypoint podcast. There is another stream platform that actually put out like a comprehensive apparel guide that literally like it draws like a human figure, and it's like, these are the areas that you can show unclothed and these are the areas that you can't. And obviously like that's more restrictive, but I almost kind of like it for its clarity, because it's not like, oh, you can sometimes show this area if you're not at the beach. It's just like, nope, this is what's okay, this is what's not, follow the rules. Like, and it's the same rules for everybody, regardless of like what your body physiology is.
Yeah, I just think it's like the people in my experience that I see complaining about what I would call booby streamers are always like dudes who are just pissed. Like, she's making money off of her body. And I was like, yeah, you're literally playing Overwatch with like a mod of like Black Widow's anus in my face. So chill out. And it just really... they're like, well, they're taking away viewers from me. And I was like, they're not taking away viewers from you. These are people who want to look at tits, okay? Leave them alone.
Like, they were never going to watch your stream anyway.
Yeah, they want to look at boobs. And if anything, Stacy and I are not hating, and we would be the ones who would be like, quote unquote, in competition with female boob streamers. We just don't feel honestly, we just don't have the confidence. But
no,
yeah, I don't have I wish I had the confidence to be like, hey, check out these boobies, and like be on stream and shit. So to me, I'm like, wow, mad respect. Like, you love your body and you're like, want to show it off. Like, good for you. And I don't think of it as like, she's taking things away from me. I just think of her as her doing her thing and I'm doing my thing,
Yeah. I guess like there's something to be said though for the fact that like obviously like we're adults and a lot of the people that follow us are adults, but there are a lot of like kids that watch Twitch, and so I think, I mean, obviously I can't claim to completely know their intentions, but one of the reasons that they don't allow like complete nudity on stream is because you can't like prevent a kid from seeing it.
Yeah.
So like if they're trying to prevent kids from seeing like nudity or,
I
you
kind of
know,
see it as like, if it's allowed on cable, allow it on Twitch, but not like HBO cable.
well, I
Like,
was just
you
gonna
know.
say cable allows complete nudity,
No,
so
no,
what
no,
are you
no. I meant
talking
like not
about?
HBO, but like, I don't know, MTV. MTV levels, you know?
Yeah.
No nipples.
Yeah. I don't know. I mean, like, and on the other hand, it's like, I know that people have this thing about, like, oh, kids shouldn't see nudity, but it's like, on the other hand, like, what if we were all just more accepting about human bodies in general? Then it wouldn't be such, like, a big deal, you know? Like, what if it wasn't like, oh my gosh, like, it's so taboo for you to, like, see side boob? You know what I mean? Like what if like it was just like perfectly acceptable for like people to be in a bikini and it wasn't like
Stacy just doesn't like clothes
it's
unless
true.
it's like for fashion.
It's true.
She'll just put feathers on her nipples and she's happy. So it's like, she's like, why do I have to live by your standards? I want to be naked. Kid, get out of the way.
I mean, I don't know. Like I mean, maybe that's just me. I wish that that stuff was. It's kind of like the whole like how there's been arguments about people being like, well, how come like somebody who has like a stereotypical male body can walk around like without a shirt on in public, but like someone with a stereotypical woman body can't do that. Like the moment somebody had, you know, like what's the difference? Like it's still just a nipple.
Yep. With that
So
free the nipple movement. I just like, I'm trying to imagine like when I was a kid, I definitely like looked at a lot of boobs and was aroused by them. So I'm wondering, just imagining from my point of view, I'm trying to remember as a child, what was my reaction to breasts? And I
yeah,
wonder, but I don't think I was like negatively affected by any of the breasts I saw.
but
I
at
was
the same
like,
but at the same time, like so I think about how like for instance in the US, it's very taboo for like people under 21 to drink alcohol, but in like countries in Europe, the drinking age can be like 14 and kids will have alcohol with dinner from like a younger age and they'll just like drink wine with dinner and it's like not a big deal. So you don't end up with the same problems of like binge drinking that maybe Americans have in college because they've pretty much been told like you can't drink, and then you get kids like like literally drinking themselves to death because it's like this off limits
I just
thing.
imagined someone showing their boobs at a playground, and I was like, no, I don't think this is a good idea.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
once you imagine it at a playground, you're like, wait, I don't know.
I mean, but then it's like you bring in things like breastfeeding in public, which should be completely fine,
Oh, yeah, it
and,
should be.
and like you know because that's like a completely natural and I don't know. I'm not saying like I have an answer. I'm merely like raising that there's like a lot of different
I
like
think there
questions.
just is no answer.
No. Well, also because everyone's gonna have their own like feelings and like opinions about like what is okay to
I feel like
show.
showing cleavage on a stream is fine because you walk. Anything like if you see a slutty outfit out in the world, I don't think any kids are gonna freak out. Some people got big boobs, some people's got little boobs. I don't know. I feel like cleavage is fine. Any cleavage streamers, I'm like, whatever. Like, I wouldn't mind if a kid saw cleavage. That's like literally a part of our society now where just cleavage is just out.
Yeah.
You
Well, but the
know?
thing is like I think some people would really disagree with you, you know?
That cleavage is like not okay to see.
Yeah. I think that's where the argument comes from is not like, like do we care as like 20 or 30-year-olds? No, but does it matter for like a 12-year-old? I don't know.
I don't know. Like, I see.
And
Trying to imagine it
I'm
from the
not saying that I
perspective
think
of a 12-year-old, and I was like, would that negatively affect me to see cleavage, because I saw cleavage all the time on TV and stuff.
Well, yeah, but not everybody is you.
Yeah, no, I'm just trying to like
It's this,
imagine
but
children.
it goes back to the exact same argument we were having about porn. You know,
Yeah.
like it's like if people see like naked bodies from a young age and they don't have someone there to explain, like, oh yeah, like, see, here's the thing: if somebody sees like a streamer that is showing a lot of cleavage and they're like, I don't know, like 12 or 10 or even younger, and their parents are like, oh yeah, like that's just like part of their body and it's like not a big deal and like you should just let them do their thing, they're probably going to be a lot more laid back than somebody who's like, oh my God, like this is like, they're getting so much attention and it's like such a bad thing. And like they see the chat just like going crazy and treating the streamer like shit. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That the
Like,
equivalent boobs is treating people bad.
yeah. So I don't know that like the actual like showing cleavage is the bad thing. I think it's when you don't have anybody to explain like, yeah, like that's just a part of that person's body and they literally cannot, like you can't, this person like can't like change their boob size just because like some people are like, I don't know, scared of boobs, you know?
Like people like me, where I can't escape them.
You can't escape.
I
There's
can't
no
escape my own boobs. I was
there's
trying
no
to get a
escape.
massage the other day, and they were like, "Lay on your stomach," and I was like, "I can't. My boobs are too big."
Mm-hmm.
So, all right, next story. Which one?
So Detroit Become Human now has a release date. It
I have
is
anxiety about that game because you know how sensitive I am to like sexual beings, just human beings being taken advantage of sexually.
you're going to completely freak out during this whole thing
I
because
know.
it has two of the things that you absolutely cannot stand. One of them, which is sexual assault, and the other one, which is android rights.
Yeah, I know. I'm gonna be really upset the whole time, and plus, it's gonna be handled poorly. I
I mean,
hope you're okay. I like you guys. I know that there are people who are David Cage fans, but Stacy and I are not going to be. We play it because we hate it.
honestly, but that's the thing. Like, I don't really have the like I hate this opinion because I enjoy playing bad games for the humor value. So whether
Yeah, no, that's what I meant. Where
yeah,
we were gonna rip it apart because when we played other David Cage games, people were like, "You're not taking this art seriously," and I was like, "Okay, guys, this lady just got raped 3 times in one day. That's not real. That's not
yeah.
real life."
Um, yeah, so it's coming out on May 25th. I will be in Japan when it releases, so everybody cross your fingers.
That we
If
get an early code.
if we can get an early code for it, we'll play before I leave, but if not, then it'll just have to wait till June.
I haven't found a solid. Did you send them an email? Did they reply?
Not yet.
We should probably get on that.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anybody who works at Quantic Dream.
Yeah.
Probably for reasons that make sense. Like, don't
I
talk to
know,
them.
right? It's like they don't publish their email addresses anywhere.
Yeah, I was trying to find it.
Nobody even knows who works at the company.
I was like thinking maybe I should talk to like some Square Enix people who were in Paris because they're in the same city. I was like, that might not. So you guys are in the same city. Do you like know each other?
Oh, they're in the same. They're both in France. Hey.
No, they're both in Paris. So I figured maybe they were like friends or something. And I was like, no, that's kind of like a weird thing.
Well, see, here's the thing: is I feel like if it's somebody that you already kind of know, then it might not be weird to say like, "Hey, do you know anybody that I could talk to?" Like if it's someone that you already had like an established, like kind of working relationship with, then they might tell you to get like somebody who you could get in touch with. But if it's a stranger, I don't know why they would tell you.
No. I meant like people at like the press contact guy for Don't Nod or something. I don't want to drop any names right now, so I'm being vague.
Yeah, no.
Like I know the like no, I'm talking about like people who work at Square that I already have their press contact, and I don't know.
Yeah, that's what I was saying.
I don't know. I'm just really stressed out about it. Okay, I'm like I gotta find a way.
I know. I'm like, yeah.
I don't know if they do give away press copies.
They
Maybe
might
they.
not. You know what, honestly, I I feel like
I feel like all the big releases always happen when you're on vacation.
I know. Well,
It
and
sucks.
so we talked about this on a previous podcast, but there is a trend now towards more companies not giving out like preview copies unless it's for somebody who like first like somebody that's like huge because they don't want, especially with like games like this where it's like very heavily story based, they don't want there to be any spoilers.
Yeah.
Because like there's no I mean I remember like we used to be able to like ask companies like, hey, like can we have a key to this, and like companies would be kind of like chill about it. And I feel like over the past maybe 2 years that's really declined because there's like more and more like key scammers out there, or like streamers that don't listen to embargo dates and they just like start posting footage like as soon as they get the key,
Yeah,
stuff
that
like that.
sucks because we always were really like, okay, don't even post it a minute early, otherwise our reputation is ruined.
No, we were like always really, really good about that. And I remember, yeah, like there were a couple times where like, you know, it's like you'd like double check with the person like 3 times because they'd send you the date in like one time zone and you'd be like, okay, so I just want to like make sure that it's like I have the right time zone and the right time. Because it's like you don't want to like, these people work a long time on these games. You don't want to like fuck them over
Mm-hmm.
by like messing with their shit. Um,
And then you're
so
also fucking everyone else over on YouTube. It's just the whole thing.
yeah. So we have information about who is going to be the villain in Wonder Woman 2. It's going to be Cheetah, which I've actually read a little bit about like the backstory. I think that they might end up using for the backstory behind Cheetah, who is a villainess. She basically she like it's like she makes friends with Diana and she finds out like, oh, gods are real, and so then she's like, oh sweet, like Diana has like god powers, like I want god powers too. And so then she like goes and finds this like god person to give her a bunch of like crazy powers, but it comes at like a horrible price.
What's the
it
horrible price? Looking like a
it
hot cat lady?
she's a hot cat lady, but she has uncontrollable bloodlust and cannibalistic urges. So it makes her like this like super predator, like really awesome, but it feeds into her hatred of Diana because she blames Diana. Um,
Girl, how is this a Diana's fault at all?
she blames her for like, well, because she's not thinking straight. So she blames her for kind of setting her on the path to like finding the gods type thing.
I don't know. I get it, but at the same time, that whole villain motivation always annoyed me. Where it's like, this is your fault somehow through this long line of reasoning. It's like
It's your fault that I went and did this stupid thing.
yeah, I get it, but it's like really hard for me to resonate with that motivation. Where
Yeah.
villains are like, it's just your fault, and you're like, okay, you.
You
Like I
know,
get it, it's deep, whatever. But like what you're telling me is a very long stream of like
yeah.
that's like you're like Maria killed someone and it's your fault. And I was like, what happened? And well, you know how you said for me to go to that foot massage place? Well, I went there, and then someone else came in, and then 3 years later, boom, I killed someone. And you're like, what?
I don't think that that's the way it works.
I just said to have a day off and relax.
Yeah. So I guess there's rumors that Kristen Wiig will play the Cheetah, which I find like a little confusing of
Kristen
a choice.
Wiig.
I mean, I don't think they would play it for comedy, but I don't know. I just don't see it.
I feel like a lot of comedians are like, I know, I'm going to do a serious role now.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, I'm going to be a bad guy. But then the whole time you're just expecting them to make a joke.
Mm-hmm. I feel like this is actually a great transition into, because we haven't talked about our thoughts on a movie that we both saw recently. Do you know where I'm going with this?
Black Panther.
Yeah.
Love the movie. Just one thing at the beginning of the movie where I was like, really? Was when
Wait.
he,
Do you want to? Are you about to drop spoilers right now?
like, beginning of the movie spoilers. Does that make
All right, maybe just like everyone can skip ahead a little bit if they want to go in completely blind.
like it's the very first scene?
Okay.
So, what's his face? He's like, okay, I'm getting crowned tomorrow. So he interrupts his ex-girlfriend's like month long plan to take down a human trafficking ring. And the first thing she says is goes, "You ruined my like thing." And she's like, and he's like, "I want you to be at my party tomorrow." She's like, "Oh, okay." And I was like, "What?"
I felt like the film. I felt like she was still not happy with him about it.
I know, but it was
That
just
was
like,
I didn't.
what
I
was
didn't get.
his deal with that? Like,
But
I'm
see, like
going.
I got the impression that the film put that as more like, oh, he's being very selfish for doing this. I didn't think that the film was on his side.
Oh, because I just really felt like your priorities are really strange if you, like, your ex-girlfriend, not girlfriend, your ex-girlfriend.
Mm-hmm.
She's been on this, and everyone's like, well, they saved all the people. I was like, I'm pretty sure she was trying to find like the ringleader, and she had been infiltrating this place.
Yeah, that's the impression I got.
Yeah, that was my impression. And then so he just drops in, and like he couldn't he couldn't like send a spy to be like, yo, there's a party tomorrow. He has to go in, kill everybody, and she's like, you just ruined everything.
Yeah,
for
but
me.
I mean, like, she calls him an idiot. I feel like that was.
But I feel
it-
like as soon as he goes, well, I'm getting crowned tomorrow, she's like, okay, I'll go. But it was just so great movie. That was just like the one part where I was like, really, dude? Like, maybe that's why they broke up. So
I feel like that's very like stereotypical Mari.
what?
That would be like the one thing that you wouldn't like about the movie.
Well, everything else was amazing, but I was like, really? You're gonna like interrupt her job right now?
Um, I wanted to talk about some of the things that we did really like about it, though, because like I felt so in broad strokes, because I don't want to give away spoilers. One, I felt like the villain was really relatable.
Yeah, I feel like the villain was like, it wasn't really their fault.
It's like, here's the thing. So I've seen a couple like hot takes about how he's the best Marvel villain, and like I mean,
He has the best motivations, I think.
and there are a couple ways that they kind of like tie into like the things that he's talking about that just it really made it feel like, oh, this isn't somebody who's just, I'm the big bad. It's somebody who is like actually has their own like motivations and backstory and like
I like totally understood where he was coming
totally
from.
understood where he was coming from, felt like a fully developed character. And I really appreciated that they didn't fall back into like the regular trope of like, I want to take over the world because.
Yeah, because what he was saying, I was like, I totally get what you're saying. I don't agree, but like I can totally understand. If I had your life, I probably would have ended up the same way.
Yeah, and that's like the creation of like a good villain, and
it wasn't like trivial stuff. Another thing I liked, if you don't mind me moving forward.
Yeah.
I feel like the setting of Wakanda and like all of the like just cool shit going on, I was like, this is like fresh. This is new to me personally.
And it felt so real.
Yeah, it was like a really well fleshed out society, and like I loved how they integrated technology with traditional African things. I don't want to like be too specific,
It's called Afrofuturism.
Oh, Afrofuturism. I liked that setting because I feel like in a lot of the Marvel movies, it's kind of a lot of the same cultures being represented, so it's little monotonous. And so it was really interesting and really fun and cool to see all the different ways they were showing Afrofuturism, and I was like, this is new, this is exciting, this is well thought out. Like, I like it.
Well, and it just like it gave the movie such a different feel from like, obviously you have like Captain America and Iron Man and Spider-Man, and those are all kind of taking place in the same culture.
Yeah.
and those are honestly just the first three that popped to my mind. I know that there are more. Um, and but like this was just taking a look at like a completely different place, but like the place felt so like I don't know, it just felt very very real to me. Like you're looking at it and you're like, "Oh, like this feels like a real place."
Another thing I really liked was the fact that a lot of characters were participating in I didn't like it, okay, but they were participating in casual racism towards the Wakandans, and I thought that was like a good way to show like, hey, like when you talk like this is how you sound.
Oh, yeah, that it's like okay, so I think what you mean is how it's like you don't have to necessarily call someone the N-word to say something racist.
Yeah, like there was a lot of like casual, subtle racism that you could pick up on and be like, excuse me, what did you say? Because
Well, I don't, so it was definitely present. I don't want to give people the impression that that was like a huge part of the movie.
no, it wasn't a huge part, but there was definitely
It was
lines in
definitely
there
there. Yeah.
put on purpose to be like, this is the type of thing that, you
When you
know,
say it, it doesn't maybe come out sounding the way that
but
you,
I also appreciated that like we were seeing this through the perspective of a person of color, for being like you don't see this type of treatment, but we do.
yeah.
And it's like, and they use a lot of I liked it a lot. It was not like, you know what I mean. Like I
Yeah,
love
yeah.
racism, but
No. I don't want to give people the impression that they're going to be going into this movie and being like, "Oh man, like
I
this
feel
beautiful
shitty.
movie is just like going to make me feel like shit." But
No,
it's
it
not.
doesn't make you feel like shit. I just like personally when I was watching it, I was like, oh no, I get that. Like
I said that to you right after the movie finished.
it was just nice to be able to feel, because like I get the same kind of comments to me where people don't really get that they're saying something shitty, and you can't really like be like, hey, what the fuck, because it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of, and then like if you try to call them out, it's a whole big deal, and they're like, what, I didn't say like whatever. I was just
Yeah.
like, I appreciate that this is in here, so that I don't know, I was like, I appreciate this because I felt like I could relate to that feeling.
Yeah.
And then like so through the movie I was like, I hope they do something like this with, you know, Asian culture. And then I started getting mad in my head, being like, yeah, but you know what, they would probably whitewash it. Like,
Yeah.
and I
Well,
was just so
I think that it would be great if we could start seeing like more superheroes from like other cultures around the world, like whether it's Asian cultures or like Latinx cultures, that would be really
that would
cool.
be cool, because seeing Black Panther, I was like, this is fresh, this is new, there's like a bunch of new ideas. And it was just like, because I've been kind of over Marvel for a minute, like, and it was just a lot of fresh material that I think a lot of people weren't taking advantage of
Mm-hmm.
before.
Well, and it's like there's so much opportunity, I feel like, to represent some of these other cultures in the world without, just turning it into like, oh, we're gonna like I feel like what was so important for this movie to do was to show African culture in a way that wasn't just like telling the same story. Like,
Where African culture, they weren't specifically victims.
yeah, like
We're not victims. This is like a powerful, proud country that like you can be proud of, instead of it being like, I feel like a lot of movies about African American or Black experience is like trying to, and it's true. Like there's a lot
it
of
talks about it. A lot of it talks about struggle. So it's like you're either watching a period piece about slavery or like, just other stuff that doesn't really give you that like the other side of like, oh no, there's like a lot of,
things to be proud of and a lot of
you don't just,
accomplishments.
yeah, like you want there to be movies and like media that people can experience that don't just make them feel like, oh yeah, everything's shit.
Yeah, it's kind of like when they're like, well, there was gay people in the movies, and I was like, yeah, but they're all dead. They're all dead. So I thought that was great. And I really hope that, this movie makes other studios go, hey, like, there can be action movies with people of color in it. And, I don't know what superhero would be Asian enough or just, I can't even think of a famous Asian superhero now.
Well, I'm sure there are plenty that exist in Asia.
Well, yeah, but like, I mean, in the Marvel universe and the culture that I live in, I can't think of
I mean,
any.
there's nothing wrong with them making a new one.
I just,
You know?
I'm just
People
kind of like realizing this in this moment where I'm like, oh, I can't really think of like an Asian equivalent to Black Panther, and that kind of sucks. But whatever.
So
New day.
there are Asian superheroes. Oh wow. So I
But the
don't
thing
know.
is, like, yeah, there's a bunch of Asian superheroes coming from Japan, but then when they make movies about them here, they whitewash them, and then a bunch of white people tell me, the creator said it was okay, and I'm like, thanks, thank you. But this isn't about you. This is about me. So,
Yeah. So another issue that like I think that you can also run into with is that sometimes if the source material is very old, then you might be dealing with a lot of like racist stereotypes when trying to adapt them.
you mean like in Suicide Club, where the only Asian character had a fucking Japanese flag on her forehead and was running around with a katana screaming at it?
Yeah.
Like that?
Yeah.
And she was really all about honor. I was like, there's like other things that Asian people do. Right?
Yeah,
like,
but they have so if you were ever interested in looking at like some of the Asian superheroes like from Marvel and everywhere else, there's actually a whole list on Wikipedia, and it organizes them by like Chinese, Japanese, all that stuff. Filipino.
I feel like a lot of people, I shouldn't say this because there's probably a lot of appropriation that I don't see from Black culture, obviously, all the time. I shouldn't say that, but I just feel like a lot of the times when I think about any sort of depiction of Japanese culture in nerd culture in the United States, it's like, Wolverine, he went to Japan and he had a Japanese wife. And I'm like, cool. Can we have like actual Asian people though? And they're like, no. Lucy Liu is Ghost in the Shell because she's a robot. And I was like, yeah, but you could have made her Asian. That was like an option. You could have done it.
Lucy Liu?
I mean, not Lucy Liu. I'm so sorry. What's her face?
I was like, Lucy Liu is actually Asian.
Yeah, I would have been so down. I was like, yeah, Lucy Liu. But Scarlett Johansson. Scarlett Johansson, sorry.
Literally not the same person at all.
Yeah, opposites. Where it's like Scarlett Johansson or just like fucking anybody in an Asian role getting shafted, and it annoys me that happens where it's like, oh, there's this like really cool story with like Asian influences and everything, and the main character is Asian, but Asian people can't carry a lead role, and you're like, that's fucking racist. Stop saying it's not. Like, it is.
Yeah.
And it kind of feels like, oh, I have this thing that I feel proud of, but I can't have it. Other people can have it, but I can't.
Mm-hmm.
It sucks. But anyway, I'm really glad that Black Panther did well because I feel like it's going to open up a lot of doors. And I was like, yes, like...
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. I hope so. I mean, and I don't necessarily care that those doors are necessarily at Marvel. I just really want this movie to show studios that, like, if you give people of color opportunities for film roles that are about things other than the struggle, like, we talk about this with, like, gay representation in video games a lot, that, like, sometimes you just want to have there be a gay character and not have the story completely revolve around like their struggle with their sexuality, like sometimes you just want to play a character that reminds you of you, or like watch a movie with a character that reminds you of you that isn't like about how much of a hard time they're having.
Another thing that I think is just unfair because you know how people are like, there's no like people of color winning the Oscars and stuff, and it's like, well, you should wait until the people of color like they blah blah blah. I was like, no,
No.
there's no fucking roles. There's no roles. Like if all of the movies like the Oscars are like 1950s eras like post World War II bullshit, which is usually Oscar bait. Like if it's all like it took place in England during World War II, atonement, like these very rich white people, they had a minor disagreement. What drama? Like, or if like your only opportunities are playing as a person of color to get like an Academy Award is to be a victim of racial inequality.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, that's an important subject to cover, but like that's your only option.
But it shouldn't be the only option, yeah.
Like, there's not stories being told in a different way. And any story that's like default neutral is always cast as a white person.
Mm-hmm.
So if it's like, oh, this was just a neutral movie about whatever, and it's like, then and it's always like a white person's in the lead, but then they're like, well, then it always feels like there has to be a reason. I'm just like, when I look at movies where they're getting a lot of the like praise and whatever, it's like it's always like World War II era, blah blah blah, like took place in England, or you know, aristocracy, or this is blah blah blah. And it's like there are other stories besides that from even that era that could be about somebody else.
Yeah. So hopefully we start seeing more of that soon. Did you want to talk about this Valve story that you found?
Yeah. Hold on. Let me. Okay. All right. Hilariously, incel games. They're called incel games, and in case you don't know, incel is also a term that some people call themselves, which is involuntarily celibate.
Yeah.
So incel games,
it's kind of weird.
They're basically people just complaining about women and how they won't fuck them.
No. I'm saying it's weird that they would call the game studio that.
Well, it's spelled differently, so I don't know.
Oh, okay.
Incel Games CEO threatened employees to force positive reviews for all games. So I'm going to read the email, so it's not very long. Hello, everyone. It's past 3 a.m. in Malta now, and I'm wrapping up my workday to get a bit of sleep. Sadly, Wildbusters revenue has so far not met expectations, and I will be even more difficult to turn things around during the weekend as the first day is usually the strongest. We are trailing at 50% of Otherlands and 20% of Guardians of Ember. One of the major issues, blah, blah, blah.
Do you need to read this whole thing, or can you just tell us like what the point is?
Because I don't want to misrepresent his wording, because the wording is important.
Okay.
I had sent an email earlier, blah, blah, blah. So I'm asking you either of do the following: buy the game and present me the receipt until Friday night, for which, together with a claim form, you will be reimbursed within 24 hours, or explain to me tomorrow why you did not wish to do this. I would like to discuss this individually and privately with each of you, and will follow up.
Wait, where are you reading this? Is this in the story that you sent me?
It's linked in the story.
Oh, okay.
So this is like a copy, like a screenshot of the email.
Got it.
So basically what he said was, you need to buy the game and I'll refund you for it and then leave a good review. And if you don't do this, I want to talk to you about it in person. So it's like threatening. And then the follow-up to that was like, oh, I didn't really mean to say that. Just kidding, lol. And you're like, I don't know. It was never intended.
Basically what happened is that they sent out an email telling people like either to buy the game or post reviews for it. That was how it was, like, regardless of what the wording was, that's exactly how it was taken by most people.
And then he said, if you don't do this, I want to have a private in-person talk with you, which sounds like...
The email was leaked, and obviously Valve was pretty pissed off because a bunch of the employees left fake reviews for the game. Mm-hmm. And so then, you know, they banned them, I guess.
Yeah, they banned the publisher from the platform.
Yeah, and so then they came out and said, the company came out and said like, oh, like we were just trying to like emphasize the importance of like good reviews and whatnot, and we didn't think that people would actually, take it upon themselves to like leave fake reviews or whatever. And it's kind of like, well, you know, they said like no staff has received penalties for not buying the game or writing a review, and there were also never texts or instructions provided on how to write the review. We sincerely apologize for the misleading wording, but yeah.
No, he fucking got caught. What an ass.
Yeah. So, in other weird news, if you wanted to tell us about the biohacker.
Okay, so I have an article open, but I also like saw some other news about it. He's a biohacker. In case you don't know, these are people who are like, oh, I'm gonna eat a very particular way at certain times to like increase my calorie density or whatever the fuck.
Biohackers are also people who will make cure like
Make up cures.
try to make up cures for diseases and then just inject themselves with it because they want to bypass the traditional like testing process for new medicine. So, and their argument is basically like, oh, but if we have this thing that can cure people, then like we want to move science forward without like waiting 20 years to like bring it to the consumer market, whatever.
And then everyone dies.
Yeah.
All right, biohackers, a group of people who are not content to sit and wait, blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
So he went to a medical clinic and had stem cells injected into his penis because he wanted a bigger penis. And he says that it worked and that he noticed a noticeable change. But when asked about, like, did this make, like, a change in, did you, like, measure it? He was like, no. But my wife, says, good job on the penis or whatever. It's like, okay, yeah, she's your wife. So
interesting.
At least it still works. But stem cells are meant for repairing, not for growing. So I'm wondering what the logic behind that would be. Where it's like, oh, if I inject stem cells into my penis, it's going to make it bigger.
However, there has been some research to suggest that stem cells can be used to help men suffering from erectile dysfunction.
I feel as if that's like something different because that's repairing stuff.
But you don't know if he was suffering from it or not. That's the thing. That's I'm not saying that it worked or not, but like if he was having issues, then maybe that's why he felt that he had to take it upon himself to do this.
I feel, but his claim is that it was for his penis to get bigger. Like he said.
Do you really think that he would come out and say, like, my dick wasn't working and that's why I did this? Or do you think he would say, like, no, I just wanted a bigger dick. It's already, like, pretty big and pretty great, but, like,
So how big is your dick? I don't know. I don't measure. I don't measure it. It works, though.
It's huge.
My wife says, I fuck. Did you know that? I had sex.
So I don't know. I mean, and like the thing about like the stem cell research is that like there's still so much like work to be done in terms of like if something works, who does it work for? When are we going to bring it to market? And
wait, you're right. Okay, all right. With penis, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but
yeah,
it took about 3 to 4 days to kick in, and the main thing I noticed was significant increase in erectile function.
Yeah.
Okay, increased size at what we call at rest.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Is that important to have at rest bigger penises? I feel like that's something that I've noticed is important to men who have penises, that they want their flaccid penis to be bigger.
I don't know.
Because all of the like penis pumps and penis extenders, they don't really affect the erect size. They affect the the flaccid size. I
thought a penis pump was literally to like affect the erection, not the at-rest size. Why would you need it for the at-rest size?
Because here's the thing. Dick size is not for women. It's for men to talk to each other about.
I didn't think that that's what a penis pump was for, though.
No, the penis pump it makes the promise of making your penis bigger, but it doesn't really make the erection itself bigger. It makes the at-rest penis bigger. So it's selling you on a bigger penis on technicality.
Oh.
Does that make sense? Penis pumps,
Yeah.
they're not really that, like, all of those, like, penis extenders and stuff, like, they're not good for your penis.
No, I don't, but I guess I just thought it was like,
Yeah, what's the point unless your boner's bigger? Yeah, I'm with you.
yeah, yeah.
The thing is that, okay, I'm a cis woman. I don't know what it feels like to be a man with a penis. So I feel as if, when guys are talking about dick size, that's more for like their own ego and to like tell other guys. Does that make sense?
Well, so what the pump is actually for is to help someone with erectile dysfunction maintain and get an erection.
That's like probably the intended scientific use, but pumps are also
That's what I thought it was for. I thought it was for like if somebody's having trouble like with an erection, they would use a penis pump to like help them out, I guess.
yeah, but that's not what they're advertised for on the most part, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, you're correct, but that's not what they're sold like with the promise of.
Interesting. Well, I guess just like huh.
Because I've like, those YouTube videos I found of penis pumps? Like they're all like, look how big it is now, flaccid. And you're like, okay,
Oh,
but
interesting.
why? Like,
Okay.
So they just listen, if you're out there thinking I need to make my dick bigger, first be okay with the dick you have, because all of the penis enlarging things are really bad for your penis. So just leave it alone. And just be good. Just learn how to be good at sex. Focus on that instead, if that's important to you. If that's something that's important to you, is in satisfying your partner, and you don't think your penis is big enough, first of all, yes it is. Doesn't matter. There's people who have 2 vaginas and they get off just fine. There's couples, they both have vaginas and they're fine. They're good. So you don't need a dick to make your partner get off.
Yeah.
You don't even need it. It's just extra.
Speaking of genitals.
Nice.
Do you like that transition?
Yeah, speaking of genitals.
Speaking of genitals, there's
Discover
a new
new
vibrator
Dove men.
that can reportedly order pizza for you after you orgasm.
I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, of course, because obviously that means that some data collection somewhere knows your vibrator usage.
I don't mind that. I just mind that, like, the pressure is on now. Like, I don't know how I'm going to feel post-orgasm. Am I want to keep going? Am I want to take a nap? I don't know what I'm going to want once I orgasm.
Well,
Do I want a pizza? Like,
I would assume that you have to you have to actually tell it to do it. It's not just like you finish and then it automatically orders it for you.
Yeah, I know, but still, I just feel like I don't know why I'm stressed out about thinking about pizza that's coming after my orgasm. Wait.
Do you know?
I have a good idea.
What?
Okay, so let's say you're with a partner and you're like, listen, we can have pizza, but only after I get off. And this device, it will know, okay? Otherwise, you're starving.
Do you want to know what it's called?
Rub grub?
Rub grub.
Nice.
And in more food news, so KFC in the UK switched over its it switched over its like chicken provider. But they were having such issues with like chicken shortages that like tons of stores were like closing down because there was like literally no chicken. And people kept calling the police.
Okay.
I don't understand like how this happens, because you hear about stories about this, like that woman who like called the police because McDonald's was out of chicken nuggets. Do you remember that story like a couple of years ago or whatever?
I think when people are just upset and hungry,
it's a dangerous combo.
Have you ever just been really hungry and had a long day and all you want to do is eat some food, and then someone goes, sorry, we don't have it, and you're like, I'm calling the cops. I'm calling the fucking police now.
Do you think that maybe like, I don't know, like when people do this, it just makes me think like, are all of these people like drunk or high?
No, I just feel like, Cece, Have you ever been just hungry and mad?
Yeah, but I guess there's just so much food in the world that I wouldn't think to call the cops about it.
I'm gonna give you a scenario.
Uh-oh.
You're hungry. You come home and you're looking forward to whatever it is you left in the fridge. You open the fridge, guess what? Brandon ate it.
Uh-oh.
Would the thought of, I want to call the police, cross your mind?
No.
To arrest your husband.
Probably not.
Yeah, but like the thought might pass your mind where you're like, I might want to have my husband arrested.
My first, because see, the thing is that like I would be so desperate, like, because things like that have happened before, and then what I always do is I'm like, okay, that's it, and I just like walk outside, walk to the corner, and get Subway.
Yeah, but what if you walked to Subway and they said, sorry,
No Subway.
we're out of sandwiches?
I mean, who knows? Maybe those places, like, they hit every fast food joint and there was no food, and just the desperation sets in.
Wait a second. They're not were these in food deserts, or was this...
This was in the UK, so I don't really know.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know about UK's food demographic distribution.
I don't know.
Because if it was like in a food desert, I'd be like, they're starving! Like, you know? Because there's not other food options. But...
Yeah, I mean, so I think like food desert usually, it doesn't mean that there's no food at all. It just usually means that there's no grocery stores, I think.
Yeah, food desert means that there's no access to a grocery store or a place with like food that's not Cheetos and stuff.
Yeah, like so like something besides like 7-Eleven. Although 7-Eleven does have a lot of food options now. But
it depends on where you are.
Yeah.
But yeah, so food deserts are a real issue in the United States. So I was like, wait a second. Am I like not taking into consideration something? But
yeah, and like food desert typically does not refer to like places where it's like, you know, like Idaho where there's just like nothing at all. It usually means like at least
it's referring to usually like an urban area.
Yeah, an urban or like semi-developed area where because of like either income levels or like whatever, like there aren't grocery stores or like stores that offer like fresh foods and stuff like that. That's what that is.
Yeah, it's really unfortunate. And then everyone goes like, well, why are they like so unhealthy? I was like, yeah, because there's no food.
Yeah.
Like, do you not get that? The only access to food they have is the fast food restaurants and a gas station. Put some food in front of them, maybe they'll eat it. Like, these are people who like, you know, will have to take a bus ride, and then it costs like $10 to get there and back to get a bus ride, and they don't have a cart to carry their food, so they're like carrying it all.
That doesn't even go into like the cost of like fresh groceries compared to the cost of fast food.
Yeah, and also the cost of fresh groceries in the city is more expensive in areas where like it's lower income and it sucks. Sorry. Side note, everyone should be aware of food deserts.
Those were all the news items I had. If you wanted to, I wanted to mention a book that I read. Did you have anything else before we move on?
No.
So I wanted to mention I started reading the Old Man's War series by John Scalzi.
That sounds really depressing. Like it's the most depressing thing you've ever said to me.
No, I thought it was going to be it's hard to explain like. So it's a sci-fi epic series, and basically what happens is in the future, humanity has obviously like expanded into the like more planets in the universe, and like they have like a colonial defense like force, whatever, and but I forget what they call it. It's like the Colonial Union, I think, and they recruit old people to be part of it, but they have like this mysterious way of like quote unquote rejuvenating people. So like that's how they get people to sign up, because the people are like, well, I'm like 80 years old and I don't want to die. And you actually have to be above a certain age to get enlisted in the army, but nobody knows how it works. So like these people like go off to be part of it, not knowing exactly what's going to happen, but they assume that, you know, if they're being enlisted in the army, there's going to be some sort of way to like make them not an 80-year-old person anymore. It's a really interesting book, and I'm already on the second one of the series, and I don't know. It's really good. I like it a lot.
Hey, sorry if you guys are hearing some mouth sounds. That's actually AJ. He's decided that he wants to lick his face in front of the microphone.
I couldn't hear it.
Yeah, but you know.
Yeah. So if you guys wanted to listen to Old Man's War or any other books for free, you can check out our Audible link, which is audibletrial.com/geekremix. I also just wanted to say, like, I really appreciate the people that do like sign up for that stuff, because that really helps us out. And I hope that you enjoy like the stuff that you get to read or like from our other sponsorships. If you ever wanted to look at other books that I've been reading or books that I recommend, I do have a profile on Goodreads, so you can find that at goodreads.com/geekremixalot. I don't know. We're already over an hour, so did you want to do any questions or?
Yeah, let's do questions.
All right, so I have two kind of like hopefully quicker questions. The first one was, how do you feel when people make representations of you in like games, like when they play like The Sims or like whatever?
It's awesome. I love it.
I think it's always super cute. Like, so
I love it.
I know that people will always like people will send us like notes and messages being like, "Hey, like, do you mind that I'm going to do this?" And I'm always like, "I don't mind at all, as long as you're not like, I don't know, like purposely representing me like in some weird way."
Nah, I don't care. Be weird with my body. I don't care.
Yeah.
Actually, show me.
No, I just like, I don't know.
Like you being murdered or something?
No, or like if I don't know, I guess I can't think of like a way that would like really bother me, but like if somebody was doing it like just to be mean, I guess I wouldn't want that. So it's like,
well, they're gonna do it anyway, so.
Well, okay, but I'm just saying.
But you don't want it.
Well, no, I'm just saying like if somebody's gonna do it to be mean, then I wouldn't feel as good about it. I feel
like if somebody did, okay. Your point is valid, first of all. I'm not trying to invalidate your point. But for me personally, like if somebody did that to be mean, I'd be like, okay, well, you just wasted like 3 hours doing that. So I think I won this round. Sir.
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
No, but I get it. Like, I totally get where you're coming from. I just feel slightly different.
Yeah, not that like nobody has ever done that before. Like most of the time when people do it, it's like super cute. Like I've seen people like make characters of us in The Sims, or like one person, what was it, like Final Fantasy, I think. Do you remember those? And they were like the cutest things, and they had like the best outfits. You were like the little short person.
Yeah, it was amazing. Final Fantasy 14.
Yeah, those were super cute. Second one is, what is a video game or movie trope that is long overdue to die? Okay, so the first one that I can obviously think of is bury your gays.
Yeah, they just fucking die.
A lot. Well, so this reminds me of like what we talked about, or the point that I brought up in Remothered, which is where like if you have lots of representation, then a trope like this is less problematic. Like, it's not a problem if gay characters die if there's tons of other characters to like kind of make up for it. It's like if there's lots of like representation of like really awesome like people of color characters, then like if there's a character or two that is like a drug dealer, then it's not as offensive than if like literally every single person of character in a movie is shown to be a drug dealer or a gang member. You know what I mean? It's like, or
I guess an equivalent that I can actually say for myself would be if all Asian characters were depicted as prostitutes, and I'd be like, what the fuck is your problem? Or like really good at math, or instead of just being human beings that sometimes end up being in that situation.
Exactly.
I'm
not saying that people can like never be offended by those stereotypes or anything like that. I just mean that like when you have when you show more diversity in terms of like Oh no, like there's actually like tons of characters that are like this, and only like a very small set of them are X. A really good example is like depictions of mental health. If you show lots of people who have like mental illness and you show them in like a positive light or like even just an accurate light, and then like you maybe have one of them that turns out to be like, really troubled or whatever on like a crime show, then that doesn't offend me as much as literally every single serial killer ever is shown to have a mental illness, you know?
Yeah,
Like
for
like
sure.
like every time you see mental illness, it's always because someone's a serial killer, you know?
That yeah, it would be if there was like a multitude of different ways of like here's a person who's bipolar and they also do other things that doesn't revolve around serial killing.
Yeah. Yeah. And I mean, like other people can definitely feel different about that. I'm not saying that that's like the definitive way everybody should feel about it. That's just my opinion. Is that like if you have like more diversity and representation, then the negative depictions are not as like they don't feel as hurtful to me, I guess. It's kind of like if you had more female characters in David Cage games that don't get raped, then maybe if one of them did get sexually assaulted, it wouldn't be like as like, wow, this has already happened to this character 6 times in the same day.
It would have an actual impact on the story instead of just
Yes.
being like, well, I
Ex-
don't know what's happening.
exactly.
I like what was I gonna say? I was gonna say something.
Another trope?
Oh, I think I'm just tired. Like, I don't know if it's just a personal thing from my experiences or not, but like whenever I see, I guess one thing that really annoyed me about Iron Fist is that like he's this rich. No, I don't know how to explain it.
Mm-hmm.
Where they get a fetishized Asian girlfriend, I guess. Does that
Mm-hmm.
make sense?
Yeah.
Where I'm like, cool, but like, what's she about? Oh, okay. She's gone. Oh, she's gone. She's just here to officiate your acceptance into the weebosphere.
Oh,
Cool.
yeah.
Where it's like, it's okay. Where I think it is like, it's okay that I do all these Asian things because my girlfriend is Asian.
Mm-hmm.
That thing where it's like, yeah, but like, does it have to be like that?
Yeah,
I don't know.
I didn't see it, so I can't really
No, it's just something that happened a lot in like those karate movies back in the 90s and shit.
yeah.
When I was a kid, I'd be like, something feels weird. You ever like, when you're a kid and you're like, I don't know about this. Something
Mm-hmm.
doesn't sit with me right with this. But where it would be like a white guy and he's found himself in like, The Last Samurai or fucking Iron Fist
Or like that
even
movie that
Beverly Hills, whatever. It's just, oh, I've become a part of this culture and that happens. And now like my love interest is Asian. I respect the Asian things and like and it's just like that's awesome and everything, but it would be cool if like that wasn't used as a tool to say it's okay that I've done this.
yeah.
I don't know. I just fucking The Last Samurai, man.
Yeah.
All right.
Oh, and there is another one that I would really like to die, and that's the like androids are people too. Where it's like this and this
Androids don't need to be people to be considered, or don't need to be human in order to be considered people, I would say.
well, it's like that whole it's not just androids, it's like that whole like, oh, like suddenly now I understand that like women are people because I had a daughter, or
They're
like
just like us.
they're just like us, or like
The
suddenly
revelation kind of thing where it's like, you didn't. I think that the whole Pinocchio trope, like, I understand the value of it, but sometimes I would really like it if somebody who's different from you, either it be like a different race or something, it's not like, oh, we found something similar among us. It's more like, I appreciate our differences and I see you as a thinking, living person.
yeah.
Where it's like, with the Geth in Mass Effect 2, that was such a unique thing where Commander Shepard learns that the Geth are thinking and living creatures, not creatures, but like quote unquote like sentience or whatever.
Yeah.
They're equal, but they're completely different from the other sentient life forms.
Mm-hmm.
Where they're a hive mind, but they're also like, but we love the way that we are and we're different and we know that you're different and we just both appreciate each other for our differences. And we have these very fundamentally different ways of looking at it, but we're both valid.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, that's so cool. Like, that's never being done ever. And then in Mass Effect 3, they're like, now they're more like organics. So they want that and it's cool. And you're like, God damn it. Like, fuck off.
Yeah.
It's just, and I would just like to see more of that, where it's like you see something that they're doing that's completely different than yours, and you go, oh, okay, like, I won't be robot or regular or whatever racist anymore.
Yeah.
Because I see the value in what makes them different.
For
rather
sure.
than saying, oh, they're just like us. Because that's not what makes things, in my opinion, more beautiful or whatever. It's what makes somebody else's like culture or way of life different that makes me go, that's valuable.
And you can appreciate the differences instead of just being like, I don't see color.
It's like, yeah, or like when, like, instead of like a sexist person being like, oh, I finally had a daughter, so now I also have woman property that I should protect, like, my stuff. Mm-hmm. It should be like, not should be, but I would like it if they were like, saw a woman doing, what's a womanly thing? It's fucking, I don't know, something like.
I mean, you can always use yourself as an example if you don't want to like make generalizations about. That's what I try to do. Is like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah.
That way I don't think you're talking about women other than you. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. So like, let's say they saw like some sexist dude saw me doing like, trying to think of like a cool feminine thing. What's a cool feminine thing? Like, oh, they played like a pink game, and a pink game is a game that has a lot of feminine qualities to it. And they were like, wait a second, this is like cool.
Yeah,
like, this is cool and like different from what I usually play, and this is fun. Like people who ended up liking Friendship is Magic, and there was a bunch of dudes who were okay with being more feminine.
Are you talking about My Little Pony?
Yeah. Sorry.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when bronies first came about, and everyone was like, that's so cringy, but really, it was the bronies who were strong all along. Because they were okay. It was cool. It was like, they were like, you know what? Being feminine feels good, and I don't give a shit what you think.
And, like, friendship is magic.
Yeah, fuck off. I love friendship, you know? Where you're like, this is different than how I usually experience life, and I like it, you know? So...
and if you don't have anything else, I was going to wrap things up.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
All right. So as always, this podcast is supported thanks to our patrons on Patreon. If you wanted to join the party and support us, you can go to patreon.com/geekremix. We're currently working our way towards our next goal, which is game roast videos, where we will take a look at games that we've played and kind of.
I think we're only $200 away.
I think it's less than that. I think
less than $200 away.
I think it's like 150 or something.
Something like that.
Anyways, if you want to keep in touch with me in the meantime between videos and podcasts, you can follow me on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. My handle is @GeekRemixAlot.
My handle is @GeekRemix on Twitter, Tumblr, and Instagram. And, by the way, don't take this, like, in a weird way, but I'm accepting submissions of myself in my fat body, and you can draw it however, because I was getting a lot of, like, comments being like, I wish artists were more okay with, like, drawing fat people, and I think a lot of artists are like, oh, I want to draw this YouTuber, but I'm worried about offending them by drawing them, like, as a fat person, and I'm just saying, like, I'm, like, accepting that, and I'm, like, being, like, cool, thank you. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that. So if people want to do that, I'm accepting it as clothed or nude or however you want, in case you want to do like body studies or whatever. I'm not posting any nudes for you to like research, but I'm just saying like I'm open to that, and I'm open to like posting it and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're being like, oh, I want to like draw a naked fat body.
Oh, and like
someone...
and like actually like represent like different body types and stuff.
Yeah, I'm accepting that right now. I'm not being like, it's me, I'm accepting fan art, but I'm just like, that seems to be an issue, and I'm just saying like, hey, you guys can do it to me, like that's cool, like I'm down, you know. So I'm just saying. Cool.
Before we sign off, I also just wanted to give a quick shout out to my friend Allison. She owns the company Rock Love Jewelry, and she makes a ton of like really cool like light. Some of you may have seen me talking about her on Instagram or on Twitter at some point, but
oh, she's got Black Panther shit. Oh man.
And it's licensed. So she does like licensed jewelry for like the BioWare store, so like Mass Effect, Dragon Age, like she's done stuff for like Fallout and Marvel movies like Guardians of the Galaxy and Black Panther. Her stuff is really cool, and it's also really affordable and high quality. And
there's a finger talon with movable joints for only $29.99.
I own it.
It's too late. I have it.
Too late. I've already got it. But I kind of just wanted to give her a shout out because she's just been like totally killing it lately with like these awesome, I don't know, like collaborations with like studios and stuff. And I'm just like so proud of her, and her stuff is great. So if you're in the market for like a nerdy gift for yourself or someone else, I recommend checking her out. It's rocklove.com.
Ooh, and these are very unique castings too. I'm like clicking through them to see like good stuff.
It's rocklovejewelry.com. So
yeah, it's on the screen so people can see it. But yes, okay. Also if you're listening.
Yeah. And she does the like Kimoyo beads, the Kimoyo bracelet from Black Panther. Her stuff's just
they have it in these are pre-orders, but they look really good.
Yes. Oh
yeah. Do you think they could like fix a spine?
She put all this stuff out and it like all sold out.
Well, yeah, because you know why? People are desperate for representation and things that they can wear and be proud of. So take that.
Yeah, so
global market.
All of the Black Panther stuff is pre-order only at this point because she like before the movie even came out, she like posted something and she was like, "Hey, by the way, like everything is like almost sold out. So if you want something, order it now." But I have the earrings that she made and the finger talon, and they're beautiful. So hat tip to her.
I love like finger talon rings. They're always so good. Anyway,
it looks so cool. Anyways, thank you so much for stopping by, everybody. We hope you enjoyed the podcast, and we will talk to you all soon.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye. AJ, you're so high strung.